Hi guys, in this video I'll be recapping part 1 of the Happily Ever After tell-all. Since it's a long episode, in this video I'll be covering the couples as they take the stage at the tell-all. If you didn't see it, be sure to check out my previous video where the couples arrive at the mansion. If you're interested in recaps of reality shows like 90 Day Fiancé and Love is Blind, please like, comment, and subscribe, and check out my other videos and playlists. We start where we left off with the couples. It's the morning after their first night at the mansion, and they're heading to the studio for the tell-all. In their confessional, Lauren and Alexei say Libby and Andre didn't even look at them during their time at the house. They cut to a scene backstage where Guillermo touches Kara's arm, and she's like, "Don't touch my arm like that," and gives him an angry look. In his interview, he says he thinks things could be good if they were back together, but that if they did get back together, they'd have more problems. Back outside, Julia tells Yara she had her breasts enhanced, but in her confessional, she says this is just something she's saying to cover up her pregnancy. She says it's partly Russian superstition, but she's also protecting herself, which I can't blame her for because it is the tell-all. Jasmine and Matt arrive, and she says she feels bad for him because it's his first tell-all. In her interview, she says Gino felt empowered last night because he had his guys with him, but now she has her guy with her to back her up. In his confessional, Matt says he hasn't talked with Gino in a while and will try to be respectful, but that he'll come for Gino if he has to. Jasmine introduces Matt to everyone and is petty about excluding Gino to get back at him for not hugging her at the pool the night before. Andre pats Jovi on the shoulder and says, "This is my friend." Jovi's like, "No one can trust this guy, but whatever." I can see now that Andre befriended Jovi right before the tell-all in hopes that Jovi wouldn't talk smack about him and Libby, but I don't think it's going to work. Now the tell-all is in full swing as Shaun Robinson takes the stage with the couples. Shaun says at the time of this taping, not all episodes have aired, and that we're in for some surprises, and she adds that Tiger, Lily, and Edna won't be there. I've read some speculation online about why those two were removed, and it's about alleged remarks Adnan made that you can read more about by Googling. It's a pretty contentious subject that I won't go into in this video, but I can see why TLC decided not to include them. Shaun does a quick breeze-through of each couple to start things off. She asks about the fight Jovi and Andre had the night before. Jovi says Andre is aggressive and he's had enough. She turns to Lauren and Alexei, who are celebrating 10 years together. Shaun mentions how they didn't talk to Libby and Andre the night before, which Lauren says is correct. And of course Libby has to make a series of perturbed facial expressions. Shaun asks Julia and Brandon some questions, and after Julia starts talking, Alexei is asking the others if she's pregnant, so maybe everyone can see it. To me, for some reason, she looks less pregnant here than she has in recent episodes. She's unable to get her words out as she's crying, and she gets up and leaves. In her backstage interview, she says even though she planned to share her pregnancy at the tell-all, since it's high risk, she feels like now is not the right time to share the news. She soon returns to the stage and says she's feeling better, and Shaun moves on to the other couples. Shaun says to Darcy and Georgie, "When you guys were in Bulgaria, you learned a lot about your relationship." Darcy says she wants more transparency from her man. Shaun asks Jasmine and Matt to talk about their daughter Matilda, who's now 3 months old. Matt says he never knew a person could love a child so much, and I believe him. He really seems to love that baby. Shaun asks Jasmine about her engagement and wedding rings, and says where are they now? Jasmine says she transformed them into earrings for Matilda to wear someday. Kara suggests she give them back, and Gino agrees. Jasmine says, "Well, they're earrings now. Do you still want them?" They show a clip of Jasmine telling Gino about the pregnancy, as well as the clip of his subsequent confessional where he's crying. Then they show Kara crying at the tell-all, along with Gino and Jasmine. Through tears, Jasmine says she doesn't blame Gino, that none of this should have happened, and that it hurts her that he thinks she never loved him, and that she's sorry. Shaun asks Gino his response to this. He says he believed her crocodile tears for so long, but no longer. He says she never loved him, and their relationship was a scam. Lauren says that's not true, that Jasmine passed a lie detector test, and that she sucked Gino's toes last year. Lauren apparently missed the fact that Jasmine was asked a very vague question for the lie detector test that allowed her to bypass said lie detector for her specific use case. Georgie says if she was done with Gino, why didn't she end the relationship? And Jasmine explodes at Georgie and is like, "Oh, so it's my fault, Georgie?" And she asks Matt to follow her as she storms off stage. But Shaun has this in her back pocket. She says softly, "Jasmine, come here," and gently waves Jasmine towards her like she was a baby deer. Jasmine complies since she knows which side her bread is buttered on, and meekly returns to her seat. Matt says she needs to relax, and Shaun tries to comfort her and thanks her for returning. Matt says for months Jasmine asked Gino for forgiveness. Gino's like, "You think I wanted her to come back if she cheated?" Matt says it was an open relationship. Libby and some of the others look surprised at this, like they weren't aware. Brandon asks if there's any way they can get past this. Jasmine says Gino told her the only way is if she gets deported, and she can't leave the country with Matilda. So if she can't re-enter the US, she'll lose her daughter. Shaun asks Jasmine to catch up on how she and Matt are doing. They show the recent scene of Matt proposing to Jasmine with a piece of string, and they show Gino's face responding during the scene. Shaun asks where they are now. Jasmine says she's dealing with postpartum depression, and she's not sure she should marry anyone ever. She says even her lawyer told her she should get married, but she doesn't want to give that power to anyone again. Matt says he'd like to see if she's going to marry him at some point, or will they just do this till they get bored? Gino looks so pleased at this. Shaun asks if Jasmine would be okay if Matt says he's not okay with this arrangement. Evading the answer, Jasmine says she wants to be with him, but isn't ready for that kind of commitment. I personally like Shaun's question, and I think if Matt applied pressure, that Jasmine would cave and marry him, because she doesn't want to lose him. On the other hand, I don't think Matt has a lot of power over the baby situation now, since he's technically not considered the father. So since he loves Matilda so much, he's probably scared to lose her, and that's maybe one reason he isn't pressuring Jasmine to commit. Shaun brings up how Gino had issues with his family members due to Jasmine, and Dana and Michelle come on stage along with Anthony, who is Gino's cousin. Shaun asks how Gino's relationship with Dana fell apart. Dana says he tried reaching out to Gino by texting him. Gino says family supports family. Michelle says if you don't agree with how Gino does something, you're automatically wrong. Gino says Dana and Michelle are the only two family members that don't support him. Dana says he didn't want to expose this, but the problem is Gino didn't want to introduce any of his immediate family to Jasmine. Gino argues against this, and Dana gets up right in Gino's face and is like, "So you don't want this to be heard? Let me get real close so you can hear this." A bunch of production people rush on stage to separate them. After sitting back down, Dana says for the entire time Jasmine was here, she was asking to meet his family. He and Michelle say Jasmine never met Gino's two sisters after having lived here for 2 years. Shaun says, "So you think Gino is hiding Jasmine from his family?" Dana says yes, that Gino knew 1 week after Jasmine arrived that he didn't want to be with her. He explains that he used to go to lunch with Gino, and says Gino told him he knew 1 week after Jasmine got here that he made a mistake and didn't want to be with her. That this was before he was even married to her. Jasmine says, so, this was why there was no affection, no love. Shaun asks Gino's cousin Matthew about the timeline. Matthew says Jasmine and Matt were having schmecks before the last resort. Matt's like, how could you know that? Meanwhile, Gino's trying to find records in his phone to prove Jasmine and Matt were in cahoots before the last resort. It's taking him forever to find, and Shaun is like, you could create a favorites folder. Gino finally finds what he's searching for and says their relationship started 3 months before the last resort, as that's when the phone conversation started. Jasmine says yes, she was having phone combos with Matt and says she's explained this before, and it was because she needed rides to the gym. Shaun brings up Natalie and how Gino wasn't honest about his open relationship with Jasmine when he started his relationship with her. She then asks Natalie to come on stage. Libby says to Jasmine, "Is this the girl you pushed?" And Jasmine nods yes. Shaun asks Natalie, how is it seeing Gino now? Natalie says the whole experience was traumatic. She tells Jasmine she's very disappointed that she'd put her hands on her, that she's disappointed in her as a woman. Jasmine says she can't play these games, and immediately gets up and walks away. Natalie tells her to sit the F down and listen. They replay the scene at Dana's birthday party where Jasmine pushed Natalie. You can see Gino smiling. Gino loves when his women fight over him. Shaun asks Jasmine why she attacked Natalie verbally. How about physically attacked too, Shaun? Jasmine says she and Gino were in talks about getting back together, so she was surprised to learn about Natalie after that. Dana says to Natalie, you didn't realize anything, did you? Natalie says she told Gino the only way they could move forward was if he had closure with Jasmine, so she was completely in the dark that this wasn't the case. She says she understands why Jasmine was angry, but she says she's 53 and doesn't deserve to be called a whore by someone. She's 53? Wow, she looks amazing. Jasmine starts singing in response, like a child who pretends not to hear something. Natalie says Jasmine needs to grow up. Kara says Jasmine's narcissistic. Shaun then brings up the immigration issue, and the issue under Florida and Michigan law where Gino's considered the father. Gino says he's working on getting a paternity test. Lauren says no matter how angry you are, you shouldn't use that as leverage to deport Jasmine. Yara agrees and says she's having a baby. Lauren says just let it go. Gino says no, he won't let immigration fraud go. Shaun asks Jasmine if she wants to say anything to Natalie, and she rudely says no. Then Shaun excuses Natalie from the stage. In her confessional, Natalie says she didn't get an apology or anything, and says Jasmine is lucky there was a security guard present or there would have been a scuffle. Then Shaun excuses Dana, Michelle, and Anthony from the stage. As they leave, Matt calls out, Michelle, you look amazing. I can't say I blame him for kissing Michelle's butt like this, since he does need to keep the few supporters he has. Wrapping up their segment, Jasmine says to Shaun, "If you don't see me anymore, we got a divorce and I got deported." Shaun then turns her attention to the Florida collective. She says there was a lot of infighting, with most of it coming down to who said what to who. And they show the usual clips of Libby being a terror to Lauren and Alexi at Yara's party. Shaun says to Lauren, "When we started rolling that clip, you were giving Libby a death stare. Why?" Lauren says because the body-shaming conversation was private, and she and Libby had been friends for 5 years, so she thought she could trust her. Libby zeroes in on Alexi and says, "Why are you bothered about the body-shaming issue if that's not true?" Lauren then yells at Libby, "Because you opened your effing mouth." Andre, with more gaslighting, says to Lauren, "Why are you screaming?" Libby's like, "I opened my effing mouth?" Libby says, "So the body-shaming wasn't true?" Alexi says, "If you wanted to talk about that, we could, but you shouldn't have brought it up at Yara's party." Andre's like, "But you called me a dick." Why is Andre forever bringing this up? They're both like, "Yes, you are a dick." Lauren says, "Why would you go through messages from like 2.5 years ago?" Shaun asks the other couples if they go through each other's phones. I think this was a silly diversion, because going through your partner's phone and sharing personal texts with your partner intentionally, which Libby did, are two different things. But I doubt Shaun watched the episode with the body-shaming issue, so there's that. Darcy says she did check Georgie's phone recently, and some girl asked him about the spa, so she was suspicious about that. But he doesn't check her phone. Shaun asks Cara and Guillermo. Cara says no. Guillermo says that's not true, that when they were in the Dominican Republic when they first started dating, she saw on his phone he was talking to someone else. I thought it was weird how he threw himself under the bus like that, since she'd apparently forgotten about the incident. Yara says she doesn't go through Joey's phone, that the one time she asked to look at it, there was nothing there. Shaun asks what Andre found out from the body-shaming texts. He explains how Lauren said she wanted to have surgery due to how Alexi was talking to her about her body. Alexi starts explaining how they were talking to a dietitian about helping Lauren get healthy after a pregnancy. He admits that maybe he wasn't as sensitive about it as he should have been. Andre says Alexi compared Lauren to other women in his texts, and that he's looking at other women. Brandon looks like he's falling asleep at this point. Lauren says, "That's a lie, and that's how rumors get started." She's actually screaming this, but I don't blame her because Andre and Libby are being infuriating gaslighters. We leave off there, so we'll see how things progress for them in part 2 next week. So far it's been interesting, and I enjoy seeing the couples cohabitate in the house. It looks like next week we'll get to see Julia deal with Brandon's parents and whether she tells them or not. I was surprised they started this tell-all off with Jasmine and Gino, since I thought they were supposed to be TLC's showstopper couple, but maybe something bigger is coming. Anyway, that's it for this video. Thanks for watching.